Welcome to Switching Reels.
That was fast.
Huh?
That was very early. Normally we say like hello or something.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Hello. Welcome to Switching Reels.
There we go. That's much better. Thank you. Hello, Connor. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's a little snowy outside.
Yeah, it is very snowy.
Yeah.
And this is definitely 2 weeks later, and not the exact same day as the second part of our last episode.
Yeah, you look exactly the same.
So
job.
do you.
Yeah, we did good here. Alrighty, what did we watch today?
We watched Star Wars, or A New Hope, depending on, as I said in the last episode, what...
I don't think anyone calls it just A New Hope. Normally people call it Star Wars A New Hope, even though they don't really call it Star Wars Attack of the Clones.
All right.
Or Star Wars Revenge of the Sith.
All right, you know which one we watched.
Star Wars A New Hope, or just Star Wars, depending on when you were born, as you just said.
The 1979 classic Star Wars.
Yes.
There we go.
I love that. That sounds good. 1979. Oh my gosh. 16 years before I was born.
You're old.
I know. Alrighty. Good. I love this movie, so let's go into recommendations.
Yeah. I mean, this one's hard because on one hand, I think that anyone can enjoy this movie as long as you have an ounce of imagination.
Or desire for science fiction.
Yeah. That said, so many things have copied it at this point that if you haven't seen Star Wars, it's going to feel really old hat, probably.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would say go into it expecting sort of a run-of-the-mill sci-fi fantasy story that's just really, really well executed.
Exactly. It is really well executed. And for its time, it was the well executed. You
right,
know?
Yeah. I would say we watched the despecialized edition today, which we will be doing for the other two as well. And I personally think it makes a big difference in the watchability of this film.
I agree. I think
I hadn't been able to watch it like this and hadn't liked it since I was a kid until I got this one and went, oh wait, this is actually a good movie.
That's why.
Yeah, it was all of the other things, despite the fact that they don't actually change the story any or the characters any, it was so distracting and bothersome.
It distanced you from the story. Like, oh, I can tell that something is more modern about this than it was. Like, it takes it out. Yeah, completely agree.
I would say in the state we watched it, does it deserve its place on the list? Personally, I'm going to say deserves to be on the top 250. I don't know exactly where this one lands, but I know it's in the top 100, and I don't know if I would put it quite that high. I recognize that it was super influential to a lot of other movies that came later, but historical significance, I don't think, makes up for the fact that it's not a groundbreaking movie today.
Yeah, that's a good point. And sometimes we go back and forth on this one. But so recommendations for me, if you like sci-fi at all, this is pretty much a staple. You got to go watch it. It's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And top 250, I do think it should be at least top 50, personally.
Okay.
I do think that it was well executed, and there's a couple things that are nits for me that we'll get into here in a second. But overall, it's a very, very, I think, well done movie. And I still think I think that the historical should play into it a little bit, because that's why Godfather's up there. I don't know that I would necessarily call Godfather Part 1 the best movie of all time.
I'm not saying that the historical context adds nothing to it. I just don't think it makes up for the fact that at this point it is just such a, I don't know, done and overdone formula.
Very true.
That I can't give it higher credit than saying, it should be somewhere on the top 250 list.
Let's go talk about it. That sounds great. I'm excited for this. Good. All right. So where would you rate it?
I would rate this enjoyment level. This is probably like a solid 7 from me.
Totally.
which again, I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
7 is well above average.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it's by no means, I'm not giving it a C.
No, entirely.
But and then technical, this one I'd probably put it like an 8. Strong 8 to a light 9.
Mm-hmm.
There are some glaring technical issues, but so much of it was just really, really beautiful and holds up today.
And just painstakingly done.
Yeah.
Like,
and so, I mean, that's the kind of stuff where I go,
mm-hmm.
yeah, I can't get past the fact that I think it's incredible.
Yeah, completely agree.
So, yeah, strong 8 to a light 9 for technical.
Awesome. Yeah, totally agree. That sounds great. For me, for enjoyment, I think also 7. It's between 7 and 8 for me, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. The despecialized really does help a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, for enjoyment. Technical, I think it also probably put it up there. Like, there are just some things where you're like, why did you not catch this?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that probably brings me down, but I think 7 or 8 as well.
I don't even know how much of it is things that they didn't catch and just the technology was so new that they're like, this is absolutely
We're trying our best.
Perfect for what we can do right now.
We can do.
Yeah, and I think especially when you're playing with stuff like CG back in '79, it's far and away
53 years ago. 54 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's far and away. And like, yeah, there is nothing that has done that much with technology that far.
Oh, I'm wrong. 40 some odd years. I can't do math sometimes. Because it was 79, right?
79.
50 years would be 2029.
30 years would bring it to 2009. So, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. I was a little bit off there. But still, it's like, I was like, it's not older than my parents. So, that makes sense.
But, yeah, it's really, really cool what they've done. And really, really I'm excited to get to 2001, A Space Odyssey, because of some of the same stuff, despite the fact that it came out 10 years before this, and it still looks great today. That one I have a lot of thoughts on, but we're not going to get there for a little while.
No.
I think it hangs around 100 somewhere.
Oh, good. Yeah,
so,
a couple years.
Yeah.
Very nice. Cool. All right. So this is spoily territory.
Yep.
We're heading out into the outer spoiler rim now. So please, if you like what we're doing, like, comment, subscribe. We'd love to hear more about what you do or don't like.
Yeah.
And love to hear feedback.
Short of, hey guys, your last episode broke into 2 pieces because, that was totally on us.
That's on that one. Sorry, guys.
So, summary of the movie.
You
want to take this? Okay, I'll go first. Luke is a farm boy that receives a message from a lady in the rebellion that leads him to an old Jedi, and the Jedi comes with him to try to save the rebellion, for lack of a better explanation, and teaches him to become a Jedi despite the fact that the Jedi are gone. And he ends up, the farmer guy, Luke, ends up joining the rebellion and destroying their new super weapon.
Yeah! Empire and the super weapons, man.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. So, Star Wars A New Hope is the story of how a young boy, 2 robots, a old man, and a smuggler, and a walking corporate, and a princess. There's a lot more cast in this than I think. Go on an adventure to destroy a giant super weapon built by the evil Empire, as the rolling credits state. They first are on the Sand Planet, which we've seen a few times now. And then they go into space for a long time, and then they go to the Death Star, which is the big place, and then the planet blows up, which is really sad, but no one really mentions it. Grief isn't dealt with very well in this movie, and
Oh, absolutely.
then they blow up it as well. It's kind of karma. Yeah, it only gets to blow up one planet.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
Yeah. That sucks.
Built for one purpose, and it succeeded.
Unless you include Rogue One, I guess.
Yeah, but like they didn't blow up the planet.
Did they not? Oh, you're
No,
right.
They only like use a partial bit of the power and go. So.
But yeah, so standout scenes or performances.
Yeah.
There are quite a few in
fair
this.
number. Did like was this before Indiana Jones?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So did Harrison Ford do anything before this point? Or Mark Hamill?
He may have been in some stuff, but George Lucas was kind of known for taking basically no-name actors and turning them into stars. Specifically with the Star Wars series.
Mm-hmm.
The only... I don't know if James Earl Jones was already a big name, but Alec Guinness definitely was.
Who's Alec Guinness?
Obi-Wan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, Harrison Ford was basically a no-name.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Hamill was basically a no-name. I think Carrie Fisher was at this point as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they all did really, really well.
Really well in this movie.
Yeah. Especially James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
That every time, like...
His lines are delivered flawlessly.
Yeah, I think the fact that he has such a presence on the character, despite the fact that he's not... Yeah. You never see the actor, and it's not even James Earl Jones in the suit.
Yep.
Like, despite those two facts, his voice is synonymous with Darth Vader and Mufasa. Like,
yes, exactly. No, entirely. He does so well. And like the emotion and like the passion he puts into those voices is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree.
I would say there are some side characters that don't have as good acting. Their performances were a little weaker, but honestly, it feels forgivable because of the atmosphere around the entire movie.
Exactly. I think the only ones that I can really point out were when they get to the Rebel Alliance, and maybe some of the officers of the Empire. But
yeah,
again, like it almost makes it feel more realistic a little bit. Like, oh wow, this is a ragtag group of rebel people. Yeah.
So yeah, I think performances across the board are pretty solid here.
Completely agree.
The standout scenes in this though are just there's a lot of them.
Yeah, completely agree.
I think a lot of the ways that we're introduced to the characters are actually really, really clever.
Really well done.
And the Darth Vader walking into the empty hallway at the beginning is just flawlessly executed.
Color contrast there too, like with like most everything being white, including the stormtroopers, and then you just have this pillar of black walking through. It's fantastic. Yeah. It's so good.
He gives off the ominous presence.
Yes, exactly. Immediately, just right off the bat, which is super, super cool.
Yeah.
And what's some other good ones? And that goes more into technical things, but like I love how they told the story here. Like they did a really good job of showing and not telling.
Yeah.
Most of this. Like
there is a lot that they show then tell.
Yeah.
Which, second best to just telling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mos Eisley is a hive of scum and villainy.
Tell it and then show. Yeah, that is true. Which I think, again, it's still just, it's not badly executed at all. It's really, really cool. Yeah. Other, like, standout scenes and performances. Mos Eisley is, the cantina is, like, super.
Yeah.
reminiscent.
Honestly, I think that's probably my favorite scene in the whole film.
It's a really, really good one. You get to see a lot of character interactions and like
it's
so many aliens.
Yeah, well, you get the feeling that this is a larger universe than just this one planet and the humans that are on it.
Yep.
You get a confrontation with some less than reputable people.
Yep.
You get your
first
criminal. Well, you get your criminal connection there, and finally you have the confrontation between this character that you just met and a bounty hunter who's been sent to collect him.
Exactly.
And it's so tight. Like, as far as storytelling goes, it's so well done. I think nowhere else in the film is it as tight as that is.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And it being what is so impressive and why so many people use this as like the storytelling thing is because it compresses so much story into such a small time frame.
Completely agree.
And it does a really good job of that.
That's really, like, I was thinking partway through the movie, I was like, oh wow, there's still so many things left in this movie, like, that we need to go and address and go and look at. Like, it does a really, really good job of compressing it and not making it feel rushed.
Yeah.
Like, I feel the pacing is really, really well done in this.
Yeah, and I think if there's anything that this does perfectly, it's its pacing.
Its pacing is so good.
It does start a little slow, but apart from that,
yeah, completely.
I think it's flawless.
The way that it jump scene sometimes feels like abrupt. Again, the pacing itself isn't abrupt, but like how they transition between things seems a little abrupt at times. But past that, I think it's...
I wonder how much of that I'm blind to because of how many times I've seen it.
Totally.
Because I don't remember a time in my life when I hadn't seen this movie. Like, there's a good chance that, well, it's not a good chance. There obviously was a time when I hadn't, but I don't remember that.
Just playing as soon as you were born.
Yeah.
Just in the delivery room. Yeah, no, totally. I think it's mostly actually just to feel like some of the characterization still gets me a little bit, like how the characters were written for the expediency, for the pacing that they achieved. Like it was perfect, but there are some things that happen, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, like there's a lot of sad things that happen in this movie, and you wouldn't know it, you know, like you wouldn't really be able to call out, oh, the Star Wars, most of the characters have lost very, very deep and pivotal things.
Yeah.
Like Luke loses his adoptive family that is the only parents he's known ever in the first little bit of the movie. And he's like, well, I guess that means I can leave.
You know, this time I actually did get a different read on that.
Nice.
So the past few times I've watched this, it's bothered me how quickly Luke gets over stuff. This particular episode, this particular watch through, I watched him in that scene for any sign of emotion and that kind of thing. And he seems like less, hey, I can leave now, and more like, the Empire just did this to my family, and I'm going to get revenge.
Yeah,
like it almost feels,
That's a good point. And like his kind of demeanor going into Mos Eisley also kind of goes and indicates that. Yeah.
Now, that said, there's really no excuse for when Obi-Wan dies.
He's kind of sad.
He's kind of sad. And then they go and destroy some TIE fighters and forget completely about it for the rest of the movie.
Absolutely. Oh, well, he does say, kind of wish Ben was here.
Oh, yeah. That's
when
true.
They're in the Rebel Alliance area.
And that's how grief works.
Exactly. and maybe it's the fact, and I was kind of thinking this through while watching this one. Like Leia compartmentalizing almost makes kind of sense. Like she was probably raised in a very political household where like she was almost trained for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully not this kind of thing, because you didn't know that this was going to happen.
Yeah.
But like,
don't show weakness, because someone will use that against you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the necessary compartmentalization that is required from being raised inside of the rebellion. Like we know from previous, like her dad is one of the forefront people for the rebellion.
Right.
And again, not necessarily explicitly, but he's there the entire time.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's where she's grown up, which is a very, very large contrast to where Luke has had to grow up.
Yeah.
So it makes more sense whenever her plan is destroyed that she bottles it up, but it still feels a little like we're asking this 16 to 18-year-old girl for a lot right now.
Yeah. You know, there is a really big difference between the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, and the things that we can get away with saying, like, you know, in this one, none of these people were raised as Jedi.
No.
With the exception of Obi-Wan, who we never see lose anything.
Exactly.
Like, compared with the prequel trilogy, where a whole bunch of them were raised to not let things affect them.
Not attach.
And so when a Jedi in, say, episode 2 or 3 loses something, we go, oh, okay. Yeah, they're detaching from that.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, cool. In this one, it kind of has to be.
There is no reason. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't have that same reason.
But I also think that it would have been a very, very different experience if they had actually dwelled on things in a way that would have been healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, to achieve the pacing that they did, to get as much in as they did, not make it feel rushed, I think they had to.
Yeah.
Like there's only so much time, and there's only so much time for emotion as well. Like, it is a very, very bang, 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 bang thing.
Yeah.
So
and again, I'm really impressed with the amount of characterization that they were able to get done, despite not dwelling on any of those things.
Completely agree.
As someone who is actively writing, it, like, your best way to characterize a person most of the time is to get into their thoughts and understand how they're reacting to the situation around them.
That no one else would be able to see externally.
Right.
So the fact that you're able to learn as much as you are externally about these characters is pretty astounding.
With no time to have, like, a somber conversation about anything.
Yes.
The closest we get is more of the precursor of Alderaan being destroyed. It's just really, really interesting.
Completely agree.
Unless you have more standout scenes or performances.
Yeah, I'm good at themes.
Yeah, cool. So themes. I mean, to me, it seems pretty straightforward. The themes surround being loyal to your friends, being courageous in the face of danger. You know, your standard
good versus evil story.
Yeah,
exactly.
In a very black and white good versus evil story.
Very, very black and white good versus evil story. Not entirely sure why the Empire is evil, or besides the fact they blow up a planet, that's pretty evil.
Yeah.
Or why the rebels are here, which again we learned in the first 3 movies. But if you took it by itself, you're like, not entirely sure what's going on.
Yeah, this exists in a weird place for me.
It does.
Yeah, I consider this a beginning. That
absolutely.
also has a connection to the prequels. So it's
especially since we watched it in that order.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean the themes are not terribly deep in this, and I don't think it does it a disservice.
I don't think so either.
Because it fits the world.
Yeah. The
world that they establish in this movie. I mean, even the storyline, despite how much they do pack in there and how perfectly packaged it is, it does that almost at the detriment of complexity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
No, entirely. They were like, hey, you know what we're going to make? really cool space sci-fi action movie.
Yeah.
Plot doesn't, like, the plot's there.
Yeah.
Well, it's there. That's it. We're building off of it, and we're
Right,
doing these other really, really cool things, and creating this cool world, which is what Star Wars has always done.
Yeah.
Like, that's where it started, obviously. Like, we started with gorgeous world building and wonderful setup and a relatively simplistic plot.
Yeah.
To go and, like, show. And again, this is the first movie. You can't really, like, it's hard to go and create, like, we get much more complex plots, some more complex plots in the next two movies.
Yeah.
So starting out, I think it did a really, really good job with it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think technical things that stood out. I mean, we already talked some about the CG, the miniatures. The miniature work in this was also just really, really good.
So well done. And all of the hand painting, like, I've seen multiple videos of, like, some of the still shots and stuff that they took while they were hand painting all of these, and all of the miniatures, like, they just, the attention to detail and the costuming, like 3PO, R2, and Chewbacca, you're like, no, pretty sure they're robots in a giant carpet. Like, I have no idea. Like, they do a really, really good job, and the set design is gorgeous. Millennium Falcon is a wonderful thing to see on the outside, and then they only do a little bit on the inside. But
there is one technical thing that stands out as being really bad in this movie, and it's the compositing of the speeder actually going into Mos Eisley.
It's just so bad.
It's like
everything else.
It's like a 1.5 second shot.
Yeah, it's really not, like,
and
a lot of time.
That one just should have been cut.
And in my brain, I'm like, just cut it higher so you don't have to see it like you do in every, like, a bunch of the other shots that you have, or do something else, or cut it like you're saying. We didn't need it. I'm so sorry, guys. Like, my brain tells me, hey, think about it as, like, heat mirage, like the little waves that heat create, but the
colors are so off in that too.
The colors are off, and you don't see it whenever they have the side view of the speeder going across the desert.
Oh, actually, I don't mind that one as much. It's just the one where they're actually
no, they don't have it whenever you have the side view.
Going.
Like, it looks fine. It's all good. They have, like, a little bit of wibbly wobbly, but it makes more sense that's a heat mirage. The one in Mos Eisley, you're like, the nice orange smudge. Yeah,
and the speeder doesn't seem to go the way that it's supposed to. It's just, it's a gross shot in an otherwise really, really well shot movie.
The only other real big technical thing that gets me, and it's not even real big, it's just a nitpick, is the fact that they have on the Death Star, they have a counter in the bottom right corner, and is only accurate once. Twice. Beginning, whenever they're like, oh, you have like 30-ish minutes until we see the Rebel base. And then 0. It says, Rebel base is here. Otherwise, it says like 18 minutes and they say 15, or they say 7 minutes and it's 15, or some other random numbers. And it is not correct. On the Rebel side, they don't have a nice countdown timer. You just see the Death Star orbiting the planet. And so,
sorry, that just brings up to me that there are a lot of, like, just really, really great details that tell you a lot about things.
Completely.
I don't mean to derail, but I think the one that stood out the most to me this time was the targeting computers, and how, like, the rebels essentially have, like, hey, it's generally in this direction until it's directly in your center. And the Imperials actually have, like, a little 3D model of what they're trying to fire at until they center it. And it's just, it shows the disparity
in
between
the technology that we're using. Yeah, absolutely. The Empire is such just a break in technology. Like, it's crazy. They did a really, really good job.
And just how clean the inside of the Death Star is, versus the sort of grody underground
base that you have for the Rebels. Even though their first ship was fine, but again, it was a diplomatic ship to Alderaan.
Right. So. It wasn't supposed to be a rebel ship. It was a ambassador ship with.
That was a couple rebels on it.
So yeah, anything else you want to talk about with this one?
So this one, I feel like, yeah, just come at me. But there's a couple different strategic things in this that I feel like if the Empire had shored up, we're fine. Not even the exhaust port. The exhaust port one, I saw some really funny videos on, and we're fine. I don't care about the exhaust port. I care about the fact that they didn't have fighters scrambled to begin with. Whenever the rebels came in, like that is a technical oversight. You should not have done this. They also didn't start with scanning the ship. They're like, nah, man, I don't see anybody.
Yeah.
I can't. Whenever the Millennium Falcon gets captured, they're like, nah, I have no idea.
I'm sure we can just put these tech guys in here with absolutely no security.
Cover. Yeah. We didn't expect there to be anyone in here because we looked, right? There's no one here. I have never heard of smuggling in my life, actually. And let me see. Some of the design choices on the inside of the Death Star were made to kill people.
Fair enough.
Like, there's just
tons
of choice.
Tons of OSHA violations.
So many OSHA violations. Obi-Wan has to go and climb on the back of this thing to turn it off. There's nothing behind him. Like, how are we supposed to get here otherwise?
There are a lot of, like, you go through a door and there's just a ledge there.
There's a ledge there. If you hadn't noticed it, if Leia hadn't noticed it, you'd be dead. Like, yeah. The trash compactor is fine, actually. I don't think
that one. Yeah,
they weren't supposed to be in there.
Yeah,
so.
no. The fact that there even was a door of egress was
like, it was a grate. It didn't look like the grate moved.
Yeah.
So how did that
shot it open?
Exactly. Maybe it's a venting grate, but then you're smelling trash the whole time.
Yeah.
In the prison compartment, maybe it's an interrogation technique.
No, I think
they let a squid live there.
As much as I enjoy this, I do think that there is, I think that this is something that you watch and enjoy, and you can analyze a certain level of it.
Yeah.
But getting into the details, like you and I like to do.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't even actually fall that far apart. There's only one or two things. Like there's some really obvious handholds that you can use to climb up and tear it down. But like there actually aren't a ton that I can think of.
Well,
like,
I mean, I think the easy ones, right, is the conversation we were having when we were making popcorn about, you know, there's air in Star Wars space, right? Like there's sound, there's gravity.
Yep.
Like things operate more like you're on Earth than you are actually in space.
They don't have to obey most of Newton's laws. Like,
right. Yeah.
Equal and opposite reaction doesn't have to happen, which is really nice. So convenient for them.
But I think
thrust doesn't work. But
so like it does work really well for just watching this movie.
Absolutely.
But like trying to hold it up to in-depth analysis, it doesn't.
No, I think it would be really fun. I think we should have a blooper episode at some point where we just tear apart the original trilogy, because I think they do a little bit better in the prequels.
Yeah, well, they
except for the boom.
So cool, though.
It's such a good sound.
But yeah, I mean, just a lot of Star Wars stuff does not work the way that things actually work.
No.
It works for the movie.
For Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like they make the system, they make the magic system, and they make the they make the setting. And they're consistent in their setting.
Yeah.
Like whenever you have your setting, you're consistent. For Star Wars is. But the fact that it deviates as much as it does from real life, just at moments, just at small times, you're like, I'm sorry, what did you just do?
And I mean, they also have been trying. I don't know why this was the hill that everybody decided to die on, but I may have mentioned it on the podcast before, I may not have. Since this movie where Han Solo says that the Millennium Falcon made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs, Star Wars has been attempting to apologize
for that,
for not knowing the difference between the distance and between a parsec as what it actually is
a measure of
distance,
of angular distance,
versus it being a time.
Yes.
Now, again, if
I remember asking my parents as a kid, how fast is a parsec? We didn't have a good answer because it's not.
Well, and the roundabout way that they've gotten to describing this, and again, I apologize if I've already talked about this on the podcast, is that they say the Kessel Run just has so many things in between the Spice Mines of Kessel and wherever it's supposed to end. I don't remember where. That you have to
go around a bunch.
Yeah, take long distances around.
Mm-hmm.
He is very clearly in this movie talking about how fast the Millennium Falcon is.
Because they talk about, oh, you want fast. No one's faster. I did this and, dang. Entirely.
Yeah. I find it really funny that this is the hill.
The thing. And like the exhaust part a couple times has gotten people's hackles up as well.
Yeah.
That one still kind of makes more sense after you look at how else are you gonna exhaust it? Like,
I would say just having a few grates on there though would probably
the grates would have been really good. Yeah, it would have been a great idea.
Shouldn't have gone all the way to the center of the ship.
Well, actually, even if the grates were there, that first one that made impact with just hit the surface of it probably would have.
There's only one set of grates.
Oh, that's true. You could just
put stagger them
and also put it partway down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, grates are a great idea. That's a good point. Actually, I like that one as well. And then the Death Star, why did it have to stop its hyperdrive on the other side of Yavin? They could have just angled it slightly over, flew past Yavin, turned around, shot him.
I don't know.
They're like, nah, we are gonna draw this out. We are the Empire. You will know that you're dying.
Also, Princess Leia knew. She specifically says that they let her go.
Yes, they even talk about it. I didn't even realize it that she mentions, no, the reason we're able to get out is because they let us go. Because we're being tracked. Han Solo's like, you're a
not
dumb person. There's no way to track this ship.
Yeah, but she's the one in control of the coordinates that they end up at. Like she set the destination.
Exactly. And then that's actually a good point. They could have been the Death Star, just didn't know which side they were going to come out on. So,
yeah.
That leads us to stormtroopers being bad shots. And I love this one because I'm not going to stop using the stereotype that stormtroopers are bad shots because it's so fun. Everyone loves it. It's it's a great little piece of culture.
Yeah.
But
you can't see in the helmets.
One, you can't see in the helmets. Luke says that. Two, if they were letting them go, it makes sense they're going to miss.
Yeah.
You're not going to be shooting at someone that you want to follow.
Yeah.
And sure, you can kill one or two of them if you wanted to, but Vader probably was like, no. We want them to leave as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
We want to find the rebels. We want to kill them.
Right.
And I think that was the most convincing argument for me of like, no, stormtroopers are actually very well trained.
Mm-hmm.
They are the same kind of troops that we see in Clone Wars wrecking droids.
Yeah.
And Attack of the Clones. And Revenge of the Sith. So not the same.
There's the extended universe explanation of they basically phased out the clones and it's actually
just conscripts.
Yeah. Which doesn't make much sense to me.
They're all the same height, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. Kind of short for a stormtrooper. And so anyway, I think that was just an elaborate way to make them leave faster. But they had troops. The Empire obviously doesn't care about expendable resources.
I think it was an oversight, personally.
Yeah.
I think that they were just like, hey, we got to have them get away from the stormtroopers, but the stormtroopers have to be shooting at them. So.
Exactly. They can't just be standing there.
But we do just see them absolutely clear a room of rebels
at the beginning. And, they do wreck the Jawas.
Mm-hmm.
And
Jawas aren't the best fighters either. You can see that they're sneaky when they try to pick up an astromech droid.
Exactly.
Doesn't take much.
Also, they called R2 an R2 unit instead of an astromech, and we have R4s and R3s and R6s and whatever in the prequels.
That's true.
And the other one wasn't an R2 unit. It was an astromech, but
it wasn't an R2 unit?
No, R2s all have the dome. And R2s and R4s have the dome. I thought that was an R3 or an R5.
Oh, I thought that was R2D4 was the...
Could have been, but it's still an R2.
Yeah, exactly. It would still be an R2 unit.
No, because you have R4 as well. He's not R2, R4.
No. R4 is in the prequels.
Yes.
And this one, the one that they pick up,
yes.
I'm pretty sure is
R2D4.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he doesn't have the dome.
Yeah, I know.
So he's an R2 unit.
I don't think he's an R2 unit. We're gonna go look that up later.
This is
this is devolving. Thank you for being here, everyone. Yeah, I appreciate it. Star Wars is beautiful. We actually really like it.
We don't always get off track, but when we do.
When we do.
All right. I think that's gonna about do it for
I think so too.
This episode. We're watching Empire next week.
Woo! Some people love that one much more than episode 6, and some people are like, no, it's okay.
Honestly, with the despecialized, I like this one, the one we watched today, more than episode 6.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm looking forward to comparing it then. It's been a while since I've seen 6.
So, yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
How do we end this?